Hello everybody, this is Shady Elkassas, the Director of Innovation and Head of Science at the Al National Private School Al Ain. And today we're going to have a glimpse on the School Inspection Framework. The School Inspection Framework is used by the ADEK, the Department of Education and Knowledge, and also it is used by the SPIA, the Sharjah Private Education um, authorities, and also this is the inspection framework that is used by the Ministry of Education in order to make sure that there is a consistency in the quality of education and learning in the schools in UAE. First of all, let's have a glimpse on the structure of this framework. At the very beginning, we read about the purpose of this framework, and as you can see, there are four main pillars for the purposes. First of all, the vision of the UAE for education. How does school inspection contribute to that vision? How will the unified framework contribute to that vision? And what are the core values of our inspection services? So this is a highlight of how we can use this framework and what are the different purposes of this framework. Later on, you go to the code of conduct for inspectors and the school staff. So this page will highlight the role of the inspectors and what they are going to do whenever they are inspecting or whenever they are checking the quality of teaching and learning in school. And also in this statement, it highlights what is expected from the staff towards the professional standards during the visit and during the daily practices of the school. This is an important section because this highlights the UAE national agenda, and as you can see, it highlights the 8 pillars of the agenda: the PISA, the TIMS, the completion of the high school education, attending pre-primary, high skills in Arabic language, highly quality teachers, highly effective school leadership, and university foundation programs. Then the second point in here, which is innovation in education, why innovation is important, why promoting the culture of innovation in schools is important, is highlighted in the section 2.2. Inclusion is an essential point, an essential pillar of this inspection, including all the students in a barrier-free, rights-based society. This is very important, and it is highlighted by this section 2.3, which is inclusion, and it highlights the effectiveness of identification processes for students of determination and how we can modify an appropriate curriculum or curricular systems, and the impact of specific intervention and personal support mechanisms, and the use of feedback for monitoring the assessment processes. Then the school self-evaluation. The school self-evaluation is an important and very essential and critical practice that the school should focus on. And this is the accurate self-evaluation is actually an important precondition for the school improvement, because it will highlight the current status, the current quality of teaching and learning, the current quality of inclusion, the current quality of the education quality and pedagogical quality, the engagement of the students. So it describes how are we doing as a school, how well should we be doing, and what will we do to improve. So the self-evaluation is a very important step in the school evaluation process. Finally, this is a description of how the performance standards and indicators are described in this framework. So this gives you an idea about how the framework is classified. So it is classified into performance standards, and each performance standards has some indicators that clarifies each indicator clarifies a very detailed description of the quality of the segment that we want to evaluate. So this is how the inspection framework is structured. So it begins with a performance standard that represent the key domains of quality education, and each performance standard is classified or divided into indicators, and the indicators are, they outline the main areas covered by the standards. And there are elements that refine specific aspects of indicators. So the elements are describing the indicators in each performance standards. By the end of each performance standard, you will find a brief descriptors. The brief descriptors actually, they describe the observable actions for each performance level. So this is really important, and it is really recommended that you read the brief descriptors, because it gives you a detailed described observable actions for each performance level. Finally, there are illustrations that provide more detailed descriptions for the practices selected for the selected performance levels. This is very important in here, which is the judgments, the consistency of the quantitative terms. So we need to know the quantitative terms that are being used. So this is not only used by the inspectors, it is also should be used by the educators, teachers, and administration. So these are terms that we need. The quantitative terms should be communicated clearly to the teachers, communicated clearly to the staff, and especially to the committees that they are working on specific performance standards. And as you can see, the levels in here are divided into almost all, which is greater than 90%. The most means 70% to 90%. The large majority means 61% to 74%. The majority is 50 to 60%. The large minority is 31 to 49%. The minority is 16% to 30%. The few is up to 15%. How can we use such quantitative terms? These quantitative terms can be used whenever you are describing any kind of quantitative terms, and it's not only for students but also for the staff. So let's say that we are describing the engagement in classroom, the attainment in a classroom, the attainment in a grade level, the progress in a grade level, the participation level in a grade level, the participation during a class. So if I found that greater than 90% of the students are having or are engaged or participating, this means that almost all students are participating. If 75% to 90% of the students are participating, so I can say that most of the students are participating. If I saw that 61% to 74% of the students are participating, this means that the large majority are participating, and so on. So it is very important and critical to know that the quantitative terms, because they describe the levels of the performances against very clear quantitative terms. Also for the staff, let's say that we are talking about the attendance of the staff. Let's say that we are talking about or highlighting the PD, the professional development of the staff, and we have greater than 90% of the staff are engaged in CPD, the continuous professional development. This means that I can say that almost all teachers or all staff are participating in PD. Let's say that 75 to 90% of the staff are attending the school. So if this is the data, this means that most of the admins are attending the schools, or most of the teachers are attending the school. Let's say that 61% to 74% of the teachers are using differentiated instructions or differentiated learning instructions during their classrooms. So I can say that the large majority of teachers are using differentiated instructions. So this is very important as terms, because we are going to use these quantitative terms in our descriptions for the standards that we are responsible for. The indicators or the inspectors are going to have some judgments in 6-level scale, and they vary from outstanding, very good, good, acceptable, weak, and very weak. So Of course, this is our main goal, but it is really important to know your current status. So if it is good, it is really important to know what do we mean by a good performance or a good level scale. And your goal or your final goal is to get the outstanding, which is the quality of performance sustainability exceeds the expectation of the UAE. This is our goal, this is our aim. The very good means that the quality of performance exceeds the expectation of the UAE. So only key words are different. So here, the quality of performance sustainability exceeds, and here it's only the quality of performance. While in the good, you are just meeting, you're not exceeding. You are meeting the expectation of the UAE, and this is the expected level for every school. So actually, we have to get this is your starting point as a good, but your goal is outstanding. So this is really important to have an agreement on before starting any kind of collecting data or collecting evidences. The performance standards are categorized into 6 pillars. So this means that the school is going to be evaluated against 6 main dimensions. The first one is the students' achievements. The second one is students' personal and social development and their innovation skills. The third one is teaching and assessment. The fourth one is curriculum. The fifth one is the protection, care, guidance, and support of students. The sixth one is the leadership and management. And as you can see, these are the 6 performance standards, which means that each standard is going to be, as we've mentioned earlier, each one is going to be divided into indicators, and each indicator has descriptors. So these are the 6 levels of standards. And all of these standards are having the performance indicators. The total of the performance indicators are 17. So you have 17 performance indicators that are describing those performance standards. So now after we discussed the performance standards, we discussed the 6th level scale, we discussed the importance of having the same quantitative terms, the consistency of the quantitative terms, communicating the quantitative terms. It's really important to know how we are using these quantitative terms in describing every aspect in the school, not only aspects related to students, but also aspects related to admin and parents and so on. And then these are some important information per grade, per subject. So in here, they are highlighting the attainment and progress descriptors that can be applied for very specific subjects, such as the Islamic education, for language, what is expected, also for the mathematics, what is expected. So there are some of expected or evaluation points that are specific for mathematics. Here, some evaluation criteria related to the science education, and here you have some performance, very specific performance criteria that are related to UAE social studies and the early years. There are some also specific terms or specific areas that the inspectors look at or they pay close attention to whenever they are discussing the early years. So this is also very important to have a look at, especially if you are a mathematics teacher or a mathematics head of department, or your standard in your committee is related to something in attainment in or progress in mathematics and science. It is really important to look at these criteria. Finally, here, this is the performance indicators. So let's look at one of them. This is the student achievement. This is one of the 6 standards that the inspectors look at. And as you can see, each standard has the elements, the indicators, and these elements are 4 elements in here. So student achievement is divided into four main parts. Let's say that, or let's discuss one of them. The elements would be the attainment as measured against authorized and licensed curriculum standards. The second one is the attainment as measured against national and appropriate international standards, knowledge, skills, and understanding, especially in the key subjects, and finally, trends in attainment over time. And these are the brief descriptors, as we've mentioned before, that each element has brief descriptors, and each descriptor is giving you an idea about how the outstanding performance looks like, how the very good performance looks like, how the good performance looks like, how the acceptable looks like, how the weak performance looks like. There is something very important that I want to highlight in here, which is there are some tiny differences between the different levels. So it is really important to have this critical eye looking at the specific words and the specific terms in each performance indicator or in each descriptor. So let's have an example in here. If we are discussing the attainment as measured against authorized and licensed curriculum standards, when we read in here, you will find that most students attain levels that are above curriculum standards. While in here, the large majority of students attain levels that are above curriculum standards. While in here, the majority of students attain levels that are above curriculum standards. So as you can see, it is the same statement, but the degree is different. And without knowing the meanings of most, the large majority in here, most of the students, these are the terms that we discussed earlier. So these are the percentages, or these are the quantitative, the consistency in quantitative terms that we need to agree on. So when you read the descriptors, you need to mindful of the meaning, the numerical meaning of this. So here we are talking about above 90%. Here we are talking about the large majority, which means it's 70 to 90% and so on. So these are very important to be understood by the committee members. It is very important to be understood by the teachers because this is the key of how we are collecting evidences, how we are writing our self-evaluation, and this is how it guides you throughout the process of collecting data. So as you can see, this is the student achievement, and this is one of the 6 standards, and these are the elements. All the elements are having the levels from outstanding to very weak, and the differences between each one is described in here. You need to look at the differences. You need to identify the differences between each level. After finishing that, you will find that there is some kind of descriptors in here, and this is also very important to look at. So this page shows you the quality of attainment, and these are described here in paragraphs. You need to read that, and reading that will give you an idea about how the performance expectations are being seen by the inspectors, and it should be our way of evaluating our own performances. So in here, they are giving you an idea about the quality of attainment illustrated below would be evaluated as outstanding. These are the observations. So how can I evaluate my performance? If you read these paragraphs, it will give you a very detailed idea about what you should see in a classroom, what you are expecting in the classroom. So in here, most students' work as measured against the school's curriculum standards is consistently above the age-related levels. Using external and other appropriate benchmarks, most students' results are above the international standards. Most students, again, it is really important to look at the quantitative data, and here the quantitative descriptors. Most students demonstrate high levels of knowledge and understanding shown in the consistently very high quality of their work. Here they are describing the quality of attainment evaluated by evaluated as good. So in here, also this is a description of the good performance. And here, this is a description of the acceptable. So these paragraphs are describing the outstanding, the good, and the acceptable observations that you're looking at as a member of the committees, and those are also the observations that the inspectors are expecting to see whenever they are evaluating any kind of standards. So let's look at another one as an example. Let's look at any kind of standards. So let's say that we are looking at that just as an example. So this is also one of the standards, social responsibility. In here, let me look at that. The social responsibility and innovation skills. And these are the elements of the social responsibility and innovation skills. The social responsibility and innovation skills are divided into three main elements. This is related to the standard number 2. This is the third pillar that we are discussing in standard number 2, and these are the elements: community involvement, volunteering, and social contribution, the work ethic, innovation, enterprise, and entrepreneurship. The third one is the environmental awareness and action. These are the brief descriptions, or the brief descriptors, and as you can see, the levels are again outstanding, very good, good, acceptable, and weak. So let's read the outstanding. The outstanding is students are productive and responsible members of the school and wider communities. As volunteers, students purposefully and frequently initiate and lead activities. Their social contributions have positive effects on the wider community. The very good is students participate willingly. So as you can see, there is a difference in here. Participates willingly in activities, which means that you are offering the activities and they are participating. There is a high level of participation. But here, they are proactive and responsible, which means that they are the ones who initiate any kind of initiative. They are the ones who are suggesting the new community service or the volunteering services or the volunteering opportunities. But in here, they are participating willingly, means that once they are offered the opportunity, they participate. In here, students understand their responsibilities as members of a school community, and some take on key roles. So as you can see, here they have used some descriptions that students understand their responsibility, but some take on key roles. So this is also some descriptor that you need to transfer or you need to change into a percentage. And here, students are aware of their responsibility in the school community. Their involvement as volunteers within the local community is beneficial, but irregular. So in here, this is the acceptable one. They have participations, but they are irregular. While in here, they understand their responsibility, which is here they are aware, but in here they understand. So these are the key words that we need to look at. These are the key points that we should look at whenever you are trying to differentiate between the outstanding, the very good, the acceptable, and the weak. They are key terms. So you might find differences in the level of engagement, the level of applying the applying the standard itself, or you might find some descriptions, some quantitative descriptions, such as most, majority, minority, and so on. It is really important to highlight the differences because this is the main thing that will enable you to collect the right evidences to be brainstormed by the members. And again, finally, at the end, you will find that there are some descriptions in here that will guide you throughout the process of what the observers are looking at. So this is the quality of teaching illustrated below would be evaluated outstanding. So this is what we should see in an outstanding performance. This is what we should see in the good performance. So in here, this is what we see in a good performance. And each one will give you an idea about what is expected to be seen in each level. So this is the acceptable. And in here, the quality of teaching illustrated below, unlikely to be acceptable. So these levels would give you an idea about how we are going to observe our performance and how we are going to be observed from the inspectors. So this is a brief idea about the inspection framework, how the inspection framework is classified. As we see, as we said before, it's classified into standards, and each standard has some performance indicators, and these performance indicators are having descriptors, and each descriptor, it gives you an idea about how the outstanding, very good, good, acceptable, and weak, very weak school would look like. And finally, you have paragraphs that will give you an idea about what we should observe in a classroom or in an indicator that you are studying as a committee or as a committee member. So this was my video for today. Inshallah, later we are going to have more detailed video about how to collect data, how to collaborate with other departments in the school, with other administrators in the school in order to collect the right data. And we are going also to have some guidelines to write the self-evaluation report or the reflections in order to be presented to the inspector. This was Shady Elkassas, the Director of Innovation at Al-Ittihad National Private School, Al Ain. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.